Hi everyone, welcome to today's class. Today we are going to discuss about the chapter name called Algorithms and Flowchart. This is your third chapter in your textbook. So what are the topics we are going to cover today? Today we are going to cover algorithm, then characteristics of a good algorithm, and then rules for writing an algorithm, then uses of an algorithm, then flowcharts, symbols used in flowcharts, then uses of a flowcharts. So these are the topics we are going to cover under this chapter name called algorithms and flowcharts. So let me move on to the first topic called algorithm. What is algorithm? Actually, an algorithm is a set of rules for defining a procedure to solve a problem. It is actually step-by-step procedure which defines set of instructions to be executed in certain order. So we need to execute some instructions in certain order to get the desired output. So we need to solve some kind of problems means first we need to write some steps. So how to solve the problem, we need to write the procedure. That collection of steps only, that collection of procedures only is known as algorithm. Okay, so step by step procedure which defines a set of instructions to be executed in certain order to get the desired output. So whatever output we are expecting from the given input, we need to get that. So for that we need to write the steps. So that collection of step by step procedure is only known as algorithm. Next, it is logical sequence of discrete steps. So we can define algorithm in these three ways. So in the last way is it is a logical sequence of discrete steps. That means it's a finite one. It is not infinite one. So we will have a final step. Okay, so discrete steps that describes a complete solution to a given problem in a finite amount of time. So we can able to complete solve the problem, and also we can complete that problem within a finite amount of time. So we will able to get the solution for that given problem also. So for that we will have logical sequence of discrete steps in order to get the solution and to complete within a finite amount of time. So like that also we can define the algorithm. So what are the characteristics of a good algorithm? So a good algorithm should have around 6 characteristics they have given here. So the efficiency of the program mainly depends on the algorithm. So if we are able to say that the program is good or efficient one, so how means based on the algorithm only. So if how you are writing the algorithm, based on that the programming code also will vary. Okay, so before we write any program in any language, so we need to write the algorithm for the given problem. So the problem need to be converted as a program. So before converting that as a program, we need to write some steps in order to solve the given problem. So that steps only is known as algorithm, that we have discussed in the previous slide. So it should be precise and it should have short steps, and it should mention the idea of the programming language. So it should be clear and short also, and it should mention the idea of the programming logic. So what logic we are going to use in the program, that also mentioned by the algorithm. Okay, so what are the characteristics we have under this good algorithm? It should be unambiguous. What is meant by unambiguous? It should be clear and must lead to only one meaning. Only one kind of meaning only it should give. It should not give multiple meanings. Okay, so that is only known as unambiguous. Next is input. Next characteristic is input. It should have zero input or more well-defined inputs we need to give for any kind of a problem or algorithm. Then output. It should have one or more well-defined outputs. And then the fourth characteristic is finiteness. It must terminate. Okay, so there should be a finite step. I said for algorithm there should be a finite step, that is last step should be compulsory there. So it must terminate after a finite number of steps. It should stop after a finite number of steps. Then feasibility. It should be feasible with the available resources. We can able to complete a given problem or find the solution for the given problem with the available resources. That is only known as feasibility. So these are 5 characteristics, and the last characteristic is independent. It should have step-by-step directions which should be independent of any programming code. It should not depend on any programming code. It should be independent one. Okay, so these are the 6 characteristics of a good algorithm. First one is unambiguous, which should have only one meaning. It must lead to only one meaning. And then input, 0 or more well-defined inputs, and then output is 1 or more well-defined output it should have, and then finite number of steps. No, it should terminate within a finite number of steps. That is only known as finiteness. And the fifth one is feasibility. It should be feasible with the available resources. And then independent, it should have step-by-step directions which should be independent of any programming code. Then next, uses of an algorithm. So what is the use of an algorithm? It is used for calculation and data processing. We can process, that is, we can work on the data, and automated reasoning. So for reasoning related works also we can use the algorithm. Okay, it is a sequence of instructions that tells how the problem can be addressed and solved. So how we can approach the problem and how we can solve the problem. So for that it will give the sequence of instructions. And an algorithm is an effective method for solving a given problem. And we will see some examples for algorithm. So first problem we are taking here is develop an algorithm to input the marks of a student in 3 subjects. So one particular student 3 subjects marks we are going to enter, and we need to find the sum and average of the 3 subjects marks. Okay, so we need to print the sum and average. So for that we are going to write the algorithm. So algorithm means it's a step-by-step procedures, already we discussed. And the first step is start. So we need to start the process. And second one is display, enter the marks in 3 subjects except A, B, C. So here A, B, C are called variables. 3 variables here we are going to use. One variable for first subject, another variable is indicating second subject mark, and third variable is indicating the third subject mark. So variable means what? Variable means it will take any value during execution. That is, first time when you are getting the value for A, you will allocate as A as 10. But the next time you won't allocate the same value, you will give some other value for A. So that is possible in case of variable. There is a difference between constant and variable. Constant means whatever value once we have assigned, that we cannot change it. So that is only known as constant. But here A is variable, so we can take any value for a given A and B and C. So enter the marks for 3 subjects. That is going to be taken with the help of the 3 variables namely A, B and C. So next we need to find the sum of the 3 variables, that is 3 subjects marks we need to add. Okay, to get the sum of 3 subjects marks, what we need to do, we need to use the plus operator, and we need to add all these variables values together. So we already got in second step the values for variables A, B and C. Now we are adding these variables, because these variables, normally variables are memory addresses of the values. Okay, so values are going to be represented in this place A and in this place B and the place C. So A, B, C values are going to be added here, and it is assigned to the result variable called as sum. So sum is the final variable which is holding the answer, that is total of all the 3 subjects marks. So we can use total also or sum also, that is user defined only. So we can use any name, we can give any name for the variable, and that should be having letter followed by numbers, or underscores also can be allowed for defining a variable. Okay, so we should not use numbers for variables, for representing the variables. We can use the letters alone. Okay, alphabets alone. Next is we need to find the average. So how to find the average? After we find the total only, we can able to find the average, that is total divided by the number of subjects. How many number of subjects we have got here? 3 subjects marks we need to enter. So that should be divided by, that is the sum should be divided by 3. So because we have the total values which is assigned in the variable name called sum, so that sum only is going to be taken here, and that should be divided by 3 to get the average of the 3 subjects marks. Next we need to display these values, that is sum and average. That is another step. So display the sum of subjects is display sum, and then display the average of subject is display the average, and then you need to stop the process. So like this you need to use around 9 steps in order to solve the above given problem. So like this, for any kind of problem we need to write the algorithm in a step-by-step way. There should be connectivity from first step to second step, second to third, third to fourth, like that. There should be continuity, and there should be a proper flow from the beginning to ending. And next example is, we need to develop an algorithm to input any number. We need to take any one number, and and we need to print the table of that number from 1 to 10. That is multiplication table for the given number we need to print. Say for an example, fifth multiplication table if you want to generate from 1 to 10. So it will start from 1 multiplication 5 is equal to 5, and then it will end up to 10 into 5 is equal to 50. So like that we need to continue. In order to get that multiplication table, we need to write the algorithm like this. First we need to assign this 1 to one particular variable name called I. Okay, so we are taking because we need to generate a value from 1 to 10. 1 to 10 multiplication table we need to generate. So we need to take the start value for starting value should be assigned to one variable, that is called I. So I is assigned with 1 initially, and we need to enter the number because for any number. So now I am going to generate fifth multiplication table, multiplication table 5 we are going to generate. So that number is going to be entered here, accept the number, and then while condition we are checking. Okay, because every time whether it is reaching to end or not we need to check. Okay, so when I is 1, I will not be reaching the value called 10. Okay, but anyhow when it is going to second step, I will become 2. So we need to use the counter also to increment the value. So this I is equal to I plus 1 need to be used. That is increment of this variable need to be used in order to go to next step. That is second 2 star 5 is equal to 10. If you want to get, we need to increment the value of I. Okay, so that will be used at the last. So in while loop we are checking the condition I less than 11, because why we are using this less than operator means, so here I value should be 10 only. Okay, so if it is reaching 11, when it is reaching 11 will not be less than to 11. So when 10 is less than 11, this loop will be continuing up to 10 less than 11. When I is reaching 11, this loop will not be working out. It will come out and then it will stop the process. Okay, so then fifth step is open the parenthesis, then display I star number, that is I. Initially I is 1, that is in starting position I value will be 1. 1 is multiplied with the number 5, and first step 1 into 5 will give the answer as 5. When I becomes 2, that is in the next step we are incrementing I is equal to I plus 1. This arrow mark you just imagine as equal to symbol. So I is equal to I plus 1, that is I plus 1 is going to be assigned to I. Now what is the latest value of 5? 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So now latest value of y will become 2. So in a step 2, 2 into 5 is going to be multiplied, that will give the answer as 10. Next I will get incremented, I will become 3. So this 3 is going to be checked here. 3 is less than 11, it is true. When it is true, it will go to this loop part. It will display 3 star 5 is equal to 15. Again I will become incremented. Okay, so like that the process will go on up to I. When it is I become 11. When it becomes 11, it will stop. Okay, so like this we can write the algorithm for any kind of problem. Okay, next topic is flowchart. So flowchart is another method of representing an algorithm in a picture way. Okay, so algorithm is going to be represented with the help of graphical symbols. So flowcharts are graphical method of designing programs and are very easy to draw. So we need to use some of the symbolic shapes to draw the flowchart. Okay, so steps in a flowchart are shown with symbolic shapes, and the flow of the process is indicated with. So all the steps are going to be here steps. Now in a algorithm we will use steps, and the flow of process is going to be indicated with the help of the arrows connecting the symbols. So steps in a flowchart will be shown or indicated with the help of the symbolic shapes. Symbols will be used to connect the symbols, that is to flow from first step to second step. We need to have some symbol here, because everything, entire algorithm is going to be represented with the help of the symbols only. So which symbol is used for indicating the flow of process? Arrow. Okay, so arrow symbol is going to be used for connecting the symbolic shapes. So whenever you are making a flow chart, we need to remember this tip always, that is keep everything on one page. That entire flow chart need to be drawn in one page only. Why means This will help us to understand the flowchart easily. Okay, if flowchart is going more than one page, it will be very difficult to refer, to move on to next page and to understand the entire flowchart. When it is drawn in one single page, it will be easy for us to understand the entire flowchart. Okay, next, basic flowcharting shapes. So what are the shapes or symbols, symbolic shapes we said no? To represent every step, we need to have the symbolic shapes in a flowchart. So different types of actions or steps in a process is going to be represented with a kind of special shapes. So lines and arrows shows the sequence of the steps, and the relationship among the shapes or steps is going to be represented with the help of the lines or arrows. So first we are going to see the first shape, that is it should be called as oval shape. This oval shape is used to indicate the start and end of the program or algorithm. Okay, so this is called as terminator symbol. It marks the starting and ending point of the system. It usually contains the word start and end, start or end. So for indicating start, for indicating end, we will use this shape only, that is oval shape. Okay, next is parallelogram. The shape name is parallelogram. This shape is used for giving input and also to display the output. To get the output, we will use this parallelogram shape. We should not change the shape when we are drawing flowchart and to indicate which is input and which is output. And then next is rectangle. Rectangle is used to represent the process. Okay, any calculation or any work if you are doing in the program, that is going to be done, that action is going to be done within this mentioned within this rectangle shape. This is for processing, indicating processing. And for decision making, so if you are want to compare some kind of numbers, or when you want to make some kind of decision, whether it is yes or no, that kind of case, when it comes no in any problem, you need to go for this decision making symbol, that is diamond shape. Okay, we should not interchange the symbols to represent the process or to represent the decision. The decision always will be indicated with the help of the diamond symbol only. We should not use this rectangle symbol for representing the decision making. Okay, so connector, it is used to this flow continues to other page. Okay, so when flowchart is moving on to another page, we need to have the connector in order to connect the first page flowchart to the next page, which is continuing in the first from the first flowchart. Okay, and then arrow to indicate the direction of the flow. We will use this arrow symbol. And document is also another symbol which is used to print a document or a report. Okay, to mention the report. So now we will see some sample flowcharts. First flowchart, it is used to represent the first problem what we have seen for algorithm. No, so we need to get the 3 subject marks. Here XYZ is going to be used for getting the 3 subject values. Before that, we need to start the process, and that starting symbol is going to be connected with the next symbol with the help of this arrow. So without this arrow, if you draw the symbolic shapes, this will not be treated as a flow chart. Okay, so flow means there should be the direction or arrow. Chart means it will have symbolic shapes. Okay, so the flow and chart should be graphical shapes should be there together in order to get the entire flow chart. And then we need to use the parallelogram in order to read the 3 subject marks for variables x, y, z. Next, we need to add up the 3 values. This is only known as action or process. So here what action we are doing? We are calculating the 3 subjects marks. That is, we are adding the 3 subjects marks in order to find the sum. And we are dividing the total, that sum, by 3 in order to get the average. So this is called action or process. After that, we need to write the value. So for that thing, we will use the same symbol parallelogram in order to display the sum and average. Okay, and then we need to stop the process. For start and stop, same symbol, and for reading and displaying the result also same parallelogram symbol. And rectangle always used for processing. We should not interchange these shapes in order to read the values and to write the values, or also to stop or start. Next example flowchart is we need to read the name and balance and rate, and we need to multiply the balance and rate to get the interest, and we need to display the name and interest, name of the person and interest of that person, and we need to stop the process. So like this we will have another example flowchart. Next example flowchart is to find the greatest of two numbers, okay, or which is lesser number. Smaller number and greater number we can find easily with the help of this flowchart. So we need to read the two values a and b and we need to check. So for checking we need to have this decision box, okay, that is diamond shape. A is less than b, we are checking. If it is yes, we need to assign a is small and b is big. Then we need to write that big and small values. If it is not, okay, if a is not less than b, we need to go this left side. That is big should be assigned with a and small should be assigned, small is assigned with b, and we need to type that result, print that result, write big and small, and you need to stop the process. Like this we can find the greatest of two numbers with the help of this flowchart. Next, what are the uses of flowchart? This is the last topic in this chapter. So if you want to plan a new project, you can draw the flowchart and we can understand with the help of the flowchart, and it will provide the clarity of relationships among the various processing steps. So with the help of the flow lines, we can easily understand from first step to second step, the second to third, like that. It will provide the clarity of the relationship among the various processing steps. And then data can be collected during the processing time, okay, and then data easily can be managed with the help of the flowcharts, and then it will help in decision making process. Then evaluating the performance of a process, we can easily evaluate the process performance, and we can explore the structure of the program. We can go in depth of the structure of the program and we can understand that, and we can easily trace the flow of processing. So we can easily find out the process how it is going, okay, and then developing the logic of the programming. We can develop the logic of the program with the help of the flowchart. Because it is an alternative for algorithm, so we can easily develop the logic of the programming and to manage the workflow of the process. So any process or action is taken place, it can be managed with the help of this flowchart, and it helps to audit a process, it helps to check a process, and these are the uses of the flowcharts. Thank you. With this we will end up the today's class. Thank you students once again.